There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes with saving money that nobody talks about openly. You have been at it for years. You skip things. You say no to trips. You drive a car that embarrasses you a little at the valet. You pack lunch 5 days a week while your colleagues go out. You watch the number in your account climb by $200 one month, $400 the next. Sometimes nothing because something broke or something came up and the month ate itself. And the number goes up, but it goes up so slowly that some months it feels like the financial equivalent of watching paint dry. You are doing everything right. You know you are doing everything right. And yet the finish line keeps feeling impossibly far away. If this is where you are right now, I need you to understand something that Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner and one of the sharpest financial minds of the last century, said in a way that stopped people cold when they first heard it. He said the first $100,000 is a complete and total grind and you have just got to do it. He did not say it gets easier with discipline. He did not say the right budget will make it feel manageable. He said it is a grind. Full stop. And then he said something else. He said after that, you can ease off the gas a little because the money starts doing the work for you. That second part is what this entire video about. Why the first 100,000 is genuinely, structurally, mathematically the hardest money you will ever make. And what happens on the other side of it that makes everything that came before suddenly worth it. My name is Sig and I spend way too much time thinking about money, compounding, and the specific financial thresholds where the rules of wealth building change so dramatically that the person on one side of the line is playing a fundamentally different game than the person on the other side. If you are grinding toward your first 100,000 right now and you want to understand what is actually happening mathematically and psychologically during that grind, and more importantly, what changes the moment you cross it, subscribe to this channel right now and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up making the grind feel less arbitrary and more like what it actually is, a one-time price of admission to a completely different financial reality. Let me explain the exact mechanism behind what Munger was describing, because most people who have heard that quote repeated have never had anyone walk them through the actual math that makes it true. When you are saving your first $100,000, the overwhelming majority of the growth in your account comes from you, from your labor, from your choices, from the gap between what you earn and what you spend multiplied by however many months you can maintain that gap. The market is helping. Your returns are adding something, but the contribution of returns at small balances is genuinely modest. Consider this. If you have $10,000 invested and you earn 8% this year, the market contributed $800 to your balance. You probably contributed more than that from your paycheck in the same period. The market is a minor player in your early financial life. You are doing most of the work. This is why the grind feels like a grind. Because it is one. You are essentially trading time and discipline for dollars in a one-to-one relationship that has very little leverage in it. Every $1,000 in that account represents a real sacrifice you made at a specific moment. A dinner you did not go to, a trip you did not take, a version of the present you postponed in favor of the future. And the account reflects all of that sacrifice with a number that grows slowly enough to feel almost disrespectful of the effort behind it. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting, and this is the part that most people have never seen laid out clearly enough to feel the significance of it. At $100,000 invested at 8% annually, your portfolio earns $8,000 per year without you contributing a single additional dollar. $8,000. That is the market contributing over $660 every single month to your balance just because you crossed the threshold. Think about what $660 a month means in terms of your actual life. For many people, that is close to or exceeding what they were contributing from their paycheck in the early years of building toward this number. The market has gone from being a minor supporting player in your financial story to being a co-contributor of roughly equal weight. And it only gets more lopsided from here in your favor. At $150,000, the annual contribution from returns at 8% is $12,000, $1,000 a month from the market. At $200,000, it is $16,000 annually, $1,333 every single month appearing in your account because the money you previously saved is now generating money of its own. At $500,000, it is $40,000 per year. $3,300 every single month that you did not earn at your job, did not budget for, did not sacrifice your lunch for. It arrived because you crossed a threshold years ago and let the math run. This is what Munger meant when he said after 100,000, you can ease off the gas. Not that discipline stops mattering, but that the leverage ratio between your effort and your outcome changes so fundamentally at that threshold that the game you are playing is genuinely different from the game you were playing before you crossed it. Let me put a real person inside this math, because abstract compounding numbers only carry so much weight until you see them attached to an actual human experience. Marcus is 28 years old. He earns $64,000 a year. After taxes and basic living expenses, he manages to save and invest $900 a month. Some months it is $1,100. Some months it is $600 because life happened. Average $900. Marcus is disciplined. He does not spend money on things he does not genuinely value. He invests consistently in a broad market index fund. He does not panic when the market drops. He does not celebrate when it rises. He just contributes and waits. Here is what Marcus's journey to $100,000 actually looks like month by month in emotional terms. In month 1, he has $900 invested. The market contributes $6 that month. He contributed $900. He is doing 99% of the work. By the end of year 1, he has approximately $11,000 invested. The market contributed maybe $400 that year. He contributed $10,800. He is still doing 96% of the work. By the end of year 3, Marcus has approximately $35,000. The market contributed approximately $4,000 that year. He contributed $10,800. He is doing 73% of the work. The market is becoming more present, but Marcus is still the primary engine. By the end of year 6, Marcus has approximately $80,000. The market contributed approximately $5,500 that year. He contributed $10,800. The market is doing 33% of the work now. Still less than Marcus. But the trend is visible. And then Marcus crosses 100,000. In the first full year after crossing that threshold, the market contributes approximately $8,000 to his balance. Marcus contributed $10,800. The split is now 43% market, 57% Marcus. Within 2 years of crossing 100,000, the market will be contributing more to Marcus's annual balance growth than Marcus is contributing from his paycheck. The machine has turned on, and it never turns off. Here is the part of this story that genuinely matters for anyone who is currently in the grind and not yet at 100,000. Most people who start saving and investing with genuine intention do not make it to this threshold, not because they run out of money, not because some catastrophe derails them permanently, because they quit during the years when the effort is highest and the visible reward is lowest. The psychology of this is well documented and worth understanding clearly, because if you can see the trap, you have a much better chance of not falling into it. The early years of saving feel the most thankless because the mathematical feedback loop has not yet engaged. You are contributing seriously, and the balance is growing, but the growth feels proportional to your effort rather than exceeding it. There is no moment where you look at your statement and think the machine is doing something I did not do. Every dollar in that account feels like a direct translation of your sacrifice. And sacrifice without proportional visible reward is psychologically exhausting. This is the specific window where most people make the decision that destroys their compounding trajectory. Not dramatically, not with a single catastrophic withdrawal, just by gradually reducing contributions. By starting to say yes to the things they have been saying no to. By lifestyle creeping into the surplus that was funding the future. The account does not go to zero. It just stops growing at the rate required to reach the threshold within a reasonable time frame. And without crossing the threshold, the machine never turns on. And without the machine turning on, the person spends the next decade still doing all the work with none of the leverage, still grinding, still doing 90% of the lifting themselves, never reaching the side of the line where the math works in their favor instead of demanding everything from them. Here is a number I want you to sit with because I think it reframes the cost of quitting or slowing down during the grind in a way that makes the stakes completely concrete. Every year you delay reaching 100,000 costs you approximately $14.78 for every dollar you eventually get there. Let me explain that number. A dollar invested at age 30 that compounds at 8% annually until age 62 worth $14.78. That is the compounding multiplier on 32 years at 8%, which means if you slow your journey to 100,000 by 3 years, if lifestyle creep or inconsistency or discouragement adds 3 years to your timeline, you are not just delaying 3 years of benefit. You are losing the compounding on whatever amount grew during those 3 years for the remaining decades of your investment horizon. On $100,000, 3 extra years at 8% is approximately $25,000 of additional growth you did not get. That $25,000 would itself have compounded for the remaining decades. The real cost of 3 years of delay at the 100,000 threshold is not 3 years of returns. It is hundreds of thousands of dollars of future wealth that simply never exists because the clock started later. This is why Munger said you just have to do it. Not because the grind is pleasant, but because the cost of not doing it is invisible in the moment and enormous over time. Let me show you the other side of the threshold. Clearly, because I think most people in the grind have a vague sense that things get easier after 100,000 without understanding exactly how dramatic the acceleration actually is. Marcus crossed 100,000 at age 34 after 6 years of consistent saving. Let us follow him for the next 6 years and compare the two 6-year periods directly. In the first 6 years, Marcus saved approximately $65,000 from his own contributions. The market added approximately $35,000 in returns. Total at the end of year 6, $100,000. His labor produced 65% of that. In the second 6 years, starting from $100,000 base and continuing the same $900 monthly contribution, at 8% Marcus's balance grows from $100,000 to approximately $260,000. His contributions over those 6 years total $65,000 again. The market contributed approximately $95,000. The market produced 60% of the growth in the second 6-year period. Marcus did the same thing in both periods. Same contribution rate, same discipline, same index fund, same 8% average return. But the outcome in the second period was almost double the outcome in the first period for the same effort. That is the compounding inflection point made visible. The first 100,000 earns you the right to play a different game. A game where time and returns do more of the lifting with every passing year, and your labor becomes a progressively smaller fraction of the equation. Here is something about the journey to 100,000 that most people completely miss while they are inside it because they are focused entirely on the financial outcome, the habits, the discipline, the psychological rewiring that happens during the grind toward the first 100,000 are worth almost as much as the 100,000 itself. The person who saves and invests consistently for 6 or 7 years through market downturns, through lifestyle temptations, through periods where the progress feels invisible has built something that cannot be purchased or inherited. They have built the behavioral infrastructure of a wealth builder. They know what it feels like to say no to present consumption in favor of future growth. They know what it feels like to watch their portfolio drop 15% and not sell. They know what it feels like to automate their investments and trust the system even when the news is telling them the system is broken. These are not personality traits that some people are born with. They are skills that are built through exactly the kind of extended, unglamorous, low-feedback loop grinding that the journey to 100,000 requires. And those skills, once built, compound just like the money does. The person who crossed 100,000 through genuine discipline does not suddenly become reckless with money at 200,000. Their relationship with money changed during the grind in a way that serves them at every level above it. The destination is important. The person you become on the way there might be more important. Let me be practical for a moment, because I do not want this to be a video that explains compounding beautifully and leaves you without anything concrete to do differently tomorrow. There are 3 specific decisions that meaningfully accelerate the journey to 100,000, and each one operates on a different lever of the math. The first is increasing the monthly contribution rate even modestly. The math is not linear here in a way that people intuitively understand. Going from $900 a month to $1,200 a month does not just add $300 of monthly contribution. It brings the 100,000 threshold approximately 18 months closer. 18 months of additional compounding time from that 100,000 base is worth far more in lifetime wealth than the incremental $300 monthly contributions that produced it. If there is any possible way to increase your contribution rate, even temporarily, the impact on your timeline is disproportionate to the size of the increase. The second decision is eliminating high-interest consumer debt before building aggressively toward 100,000. Carrying credit card debt at 22% while investing at 8% is mathematical self-harm. Every dollar going toward credit card interest has a dollar not compounding at 8% and is simultaneously generating a guaranteed negative 22% return on your overall financial position. For most people, the highest return available investment during the years of carrying high-interest debt is paying off that debt. The third decision is automating the contribution so that the money moves to your investment account before you interact with your paycheck. Not because you lack discipline, because discipline is a finite resource that gets depleted by every decision you make all day. The person who automates their investing is not relying on willpower in month 34 of the grind. The system is making the decision, and the system does not get tired, does not get tempted, does not decide that this month is a reasonable exception. Let me close with the specific contrast between the first and second. 100,000 because I think it is the most motivating thing I can say to someone who is currently in the grind and struggling to see the point. Your first 100,000 took you 6 or 7 or 8 years of consistent sacrifice. Your second 100,000, starting from that same base and contributing the same monthly amount, will take you approximately 4 to 5 years. Not because you got a raise, not because you got lucky with a stock pick, because the 100,000 you already have is contributing to its own successor. By the time you are building toward your third 100,000, the timeline shrinks again. Your fourth comes faster than your third, your fifth faster than your fourth. The compounding curve is not linear, it is exponential, and the exponential part of that curve, the part where the numbers start moving in ways that feel almost fictional compared to the early years, starts right at the 100,000 threshold. Every month of the grind that you are currently in is buying you a position on that curve. Not a small position, a permanent, compounding, self-reinforcing position that generates returns for every year you remain invested after reaching it. The grind is not the price of $100,000. The grind is the price of admission to a game that the majority of people who start never reach, and the people who do reach it almost never describe it as not worth it. They describe it as the decision that changed everything, not because $100,000 is a lot of money in isolation, because of what $100,000 becomes when you give it time and leave it alone. The first 100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make, not because you are doing anything wrong, not because the system is unfair to early savers, but because the compounding machine requires a minimum amount of fuel before it produces enough power to be felt. Below that threshold, you are the engine. Above it, the engine runs alongside you and eventually in front of you. The years of the grind are not wasted years. They are the years you are building something that will work for you without your constant attention for the rest of your financial life. The discipline is temporary. The machine is permanent. And the only question that actually matters right now is not how long the grind will take. It is whether you will still be contributing consistently in month 42 when the progress still feels slow and the temptation to ease off feels completely reasonable. Because month 42, where most people make the choice that separates the people who cross the threshold from the people who spend the next decade almost getting there. Stay in it. The machine is waiting on the other side of a number. You are closer to than it feels right now.